Virna Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern. We got minus 165 on Mackenzie and plus 145 on Virna Jandiroba. Let's start off with Mackenzie Dern, who's currently on a two-fight winning streak after losing her first ever MMA bout to Amanda Hebos. And the interesting thing regarding that fight was that it actually took place 4 months after she had given birth to her first son. I believe it's her son. I'm not sure if it's actually her daughter. I got to look deeper into that. But let's just say her first child. That's very, very impressive, at least to me, to consider, a woman, giving birth and then within 4 months being able to get that baby weight off and getting into a shape where you're fight ready. She didn't miss weight either for that fight. So that's very interesting, given the circumstances leading up to that fight. But then obviously she goes out there against a much tougher opponent in Amanda Hebos. Yeah, she was. It looks like Dern was a slight favorite in that fight, which is kind of interesting to me. I actually want to confirm that because that sounds kind of off. I feel like Amanda Hebos was the favorite in that fight. Mackenzie Dern closed minus 195. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I thought that Hebos was actually the favorite in that fight. Yeah, he was plus 160 that night. But yeah, that was the toughest opponent that she's faced to date, which is why she came up on the losing end. Yeah, I mean, Hebos looking better and better with every single fight. Her hands are obviously much better than Dern's. Her Muay Thai, everything, pretty much her striking game was much better than Dern's that night. And then obviously with the Jiu-Jitsu, she's pretty high level herself. Obviously not to the level of Mackenzie Dern, but just enough that she was able to like keep the fight away from the ground and pretty much just beat up Mackenzie Dern on the feet, which is where she had the vast amount of her success. Then obviously for Dern, the next two fights are way easier. Hannah Cyphers, that fight looks a little bit hairy at first when she's not able to get it to the ground. And then, Hannah Cyphers hangs around a little bit too long with Dern on the ground, eventually gets reversed and then gets knee barred. That was an unfortunate loss for Cyphers, who was looking really good up into that part. And then Random Marcos, we all know the tail of the tape on that one. Marcos leading up to the fight the entire week saying, I'm not going to engage in the grappling. I'm not going to engage in the grappling. And she lands this nice shot on Dern. Dern goes down and she goes, oh, it looks like Dern is hurt. I'm going to go out there and try to ground and pound her. Nope. She goes out there, it gets reversed, and then ends up in an armbar and gets tapped to that. So, not the most you can really take from those fights in terms of the Dern side, other than her opponent's kind of just playing into her game. And now with this Jandiroba fight, this one is way more interesting because I feel like this is maybe the best or second best opponent that Mackenzie Dern has fought. Obviously, Amanda Hebos being the other one. I'm not really sure which way to rate them if Hebos and Jandiroba were able to go up against each other, but this one is intriguing. Both women look kind of uncomfortable on the feet, so this is not going to be a Amanda Hebos type of fight where she just outstrikes Dern and keeps the fight on the feet, because Jandiroba herself just doesn't look super comfortable. Like she makes it known that she's just going to stay on the feet long enough, not really throw much, maybe throw a jab here and there, but her ultimate goal is to get the fight to the ground. And that's where I expect this fight to be. And both women are high level jiu-jitsu players. Even Mackenzie Dern was admitting that them two are the best jiu-jitsu players in that division. And maybe that's a bit of a slap in the face of Amanda Hebos, but then again, Jandiroba touts her black belt game a little bit more than Hebos does. So this one's tough, man. I really don't know which way to choose. I kind of wanted to go with Virna pre-tape, but then running the tape, it's just not enough substantial information for me to be like, okay, I want to pick one or the other. Now, if you're talking about value, I feel like you have to go with the value on Verna at plus money, as I believe that they might be able to cancel each other out on the ground. But with that said, Mackenzie Dern, she's 27, Jenny Robo's 32. It looks like Dern is trying to round out her game as best as possible. She recently started working with Jason Perillo, who's been helping her to kind of tighten up her hands. I'm not sure how much that's really going to show off in this fight against Verna. We've seen fighters try to make that transition with other striking coaches, and you don't really see it come to fruition. But at least she doesn't like to get punched, or sorry, she shows that she doesn't mind getting punched, kind of like Malcolm Gordon, who tried going over there to Bazooka Joseph Valtellini's place and pick up a thing or two in the striking game. But it's another thing if you just don't like being hit, and it seems like Dern doesn't mind taking a shot or two, so that's at least somewhat impressive. Now the size, Mackenzie Dern has like an inch in height on her. Their reach is kind of the same too. I'm just so torn on which way to go here. I think ultimately this fight's going to be a pass, but I'm actually going to be leaning with the Mackenzie Dern side here now. I feel like I was trying to find the credentials on Virna Jandiroba in terms of jiu-jitsu, and it was much harder to find than what you could find on Mackenzie Dern. Like, if you even just go to Mackenzie Dern's Wikipedia page, she has almost like a Rolodex of gold medals and all these championships and titles that she's won in jiu-jitsu, which is absolutely insane. It's pretty obvious that she's one of the best, if not the best, and most credentialed jiu-jitsu player, pure jiu-jitsu player that's ever come into the MMA world, or at least the UFC world on the female side. It's tough, man. I'm so torn on this fight because I just don't know which way it's really gonna go. I will be leaning with Mackenzie Dern here though. I'm hoping that we see a little bit more improvement with her hands. Again, obviously working with Jason Perillo, Virna Jandiroba on the other side. You know, she might have some issues dealing with the hands here. She did have some issues against Mizuki anyway on the feet. I feel like Dern might be slightly better. You know what? I don't want to say that actually because we need to see the improvements from Dern first on the feet before we can truly say that. So yeah, I'll go with Dern here, but I think that all in all, this fight's going to be a pass for me. I just want to see them hit the ground and kind of see how that jiu-jitsu game kind of rolls out. It's one thing definitely from Mackenzie Dern's side to say that Jandiroba and her have the two best jiu-jitsu skills in that division. So she's definitely acknowledging that Jandiroba is a threat. But I like Dern, man. It seems like she has her weight issues under control as well. I saw an interview where she was talking about being like 3 or 4 pounds overweight at this point in time, which is very, very assuring, especially considering like the troubles that she's had in the past to make the weight. So good for her to be able to like straighten that out. Making her self kind of known at this 115-pound division, and hopefully she can start to string together a couple victories now and really start gunning for the top of the division. But we need to see those skills play out in the cage before we can truly, ride home and be like, all right, this girl's a legitimate contender now. But beating a girl like Virna Jandiroba, who 16-1 record, it's tough to beat her. Only one woman has done it, and it was Carla Esparza kind of just beating her with the better wrestling. Getting the better top positions, staying out of submissions. If Dern can do that, if Dern can get Jandiroba down and kind of implement her jiu-jitsu game from on top, I think she might have more success. But I'd love to see both women kind of off of their back and see what they have to offer with offensive jiu-jitsu from that side. So yeah, I'll go on Mackenzie Dern. I'm not sure if she'll get the sub. I'll say by decision. I think she ends up controlling Jandiroba on the ground, maybe getting a better of the striking exchanges too. Maybe not by a lot, but just enough. But yeah, I'll go with Dern here to win this fight via decision.